Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 7th session of the Light Body Manifestation Program. I'm Mercedes Kirkel, and I am so glad you are here with us once again. And our focus for our session today is we're on the second week of the solar plexus chakra. So focusing on continuing to explore about the solar plexus chakra and going deeper with that. So with that, I want to begin with a check-in. And let me go to my notes here so that I can remember. I can do a quick review of what we've covered and what I invite you to share anything. And you know, I had the thought that I wanted to go back to the format we used in the Magdalene Heart Path course, which was celebrations and mornings. So I think I'm going to change this from calling it check-in to celebrations and mornings. And anything you want to celebrate or mourn relative to your solar plexus chakra and what you've been practicing with and noticing this week. And in particular, some suggestions like how have you noticed yourself connecting or not being connected to your solar plexus chakra? What have you noticed about your yeses and your nos and about expressing a no? And any healing that's come up for you around the solar plexus. So I open it up for anyone who'd like to share with us any celebrations and mornings about the material we've been focusing on the past week.
Oh, I have a celebration.
All right.
Okay. So I always have a really hard time saying no. So it was interesting because the day I was listening to the call, because I had to catch up, I had this woman send me a message and ask me to commit to 30 days of doing this process with her. And I was like, oh no, like I can't do it. And I was going to respond and just say, because for me, I mean, I love her, but it was like a big commitment. And so for me, I was looking and I was just like, you know what, for my inner divine qualities, it's not going to fulfill my need for some time and space right now because I'm just going through like a lot of healing and a lot of stuff coming up. And then, but I didn't respond right away, but I listened to the call and then I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't have to say completely no. I know that her inner divine quality of connection needs to be met. So what if I just say, you know, I can't commit to 30 days, but I would love to connect with you this weekend. Like maybe we can set aside an hour and just talk. And it felt so good because I didn't feel bad about saying no because it was still like a yes, but just it fulfilled both of our inner divine qualities. So thank you. That was so new for me. And now it opened up this whole new world that like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't have to be yes or no. Like there's this whole gray area that we can work with to get both of our inner divine qualities met.
Exactly.
So thank you.
The no is to the strategy.
Right.
The strategy of, can you meet with me every day for the next 30 days? But you can still have a yes to the inner divine qualities. And then just look for different strategies.
So I love that. And I feel, I have to be honest, this is the chakra that I feel least connected to. So it's been a little bit of an effort for me, but I felt even just with that experience, like I felt it strengthen.
Wonderful.
So that was good. Yeah. So thank you.
You know why you don't feel as connected to it?
Well, I think because I mean, it's definitely that power aspect, you know, and I think just growing up in the family that had just such a patriarchal influence, like I didn't have any room to connect with that part of me. Like I never got to, you know, stand in my personal power growing up. So it's something I'm moving into that feels really like vulnerable and uncomfortable. But
yes,
yeah,
they can. And especially if you weren't supported in that. Supported in developing your power and owning your power.
Yes. And when I did the meditation, what my my solar plexus chakra said to me was, it's essential that you connect with me. And it just was very clear, like, it's essential. And I was like, okay.
And how did you feel when you received that message?
I felt, I felt like a sense of peace, because I was just like, yeah, that's the truth. I've known that for so long. There's no getting around this. Like, I have to connect with my personal power, and it's time. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share celebrations and mornings in their journey of working with the solar plexus chakra this week?
This is Joy. I'll share. So I had something that came up. My boss wanted me to go to travel, and immediately I was like, no, I can't. I'm just starting to feel better. I just can't. I can't. And so I was going through. I did my whole list, which is like a laundry list of feelings and inner divine qualities. And I was going over it at our call with Maria. And so then she was like, well, why don't we go over the exercise? And I'm like, well, I just went over the exercise with you, Maria, in my mind. And so we were going over the exercise, and I realized that, no, I had gone over my half of the exercise, but I hadn't gone over his half. And it's not like I didn't hear that at the last call, but somehow I just totally missed it. It just like some block. And yeah, so it was really helpful going over that. And then, nothing has been resolved, but it just opened up space, and so, kind of go from there. So that was really great. And then the other thing that I've noticed is this is actually the chakra that I thought I was the most connected to. But for some reason, it's been the one that I've felt least connected to when we've done the meditations, and so some of it I think was mentioning last week that I felt like I had this huge opening, and then I think that because of the circumstance that the opening happened, relationship didn't work out, that I kind of closed to it, and so I've really been looking at owning that opening regardless of how it happened, but regardless of the relationship. So anyways, that was all. It was great. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to share their experiences of working with the solar plexus chakra and their celebrations and mornings around that?
Yes, so I was able to, I think there were two things in the week that really were helpful. One was going through the exercise of the yes and the no, that I discovered that many times the inner divine qualities that they were looking for are the same for both sides of the table. And it's just that we go differently about it. So that really...
Maria?
Yeah.
Would you say that last part again? Because it didn't come through on my computer.
So that we, both sides of the table, have the same inner divine qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And that took away the sense of having the world against me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like you have to be fighting for what you want all the time, but that we were on the same side. So that was really
Yay.
Yeah. And then the other one that helped me was the solar plexus chakra I discovered. I had it very much associated with action.
Mm-hmm.
So, things that we do and who I am and who I express myself. But then I said I need a new definition. And it really came up that the solar plexus can look down to the first and second chakra, to who I am. And and be more related to being than doing.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So it's more peaceful. Like I could be in my power and just be there. I don't have to, go running around like crazy, showing showing myself that I have power.
Yes, a lot of the things we tend to do are oftentimes in reaction to a sense of not having power.
Yeah. So that was also really good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's see. Anyone else want to share their experiences and their celebrations and mornings of this material?
Hi, this is Rajinder.
Hello.
I had a little more clarity with what I was trying to say at the last class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try. I talked with Eva, and it helped become a little more clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have too many yeses and nos. I really, when I'm faced with a choice, go to what's in the best interest for myself and for all concerned. And I don't really care. I mean, I kind of like what's in the best interest is what will direct how I make a choice. And so I think I would like you to explain, if you're going to, the third chakra in the third dimension is what I think we were talking about, but the third chakra more in the fourth dimension.
Well, first of all, I'm sure there are some arenas where you do have yeses and nos. For example, when you're choosing what clothes to wear in the morning.
Okay.
You probably have yeses and nos around that, right? Or you go shopping and you're choosing what clothes to buy. You're at a restaurant, you're choosing.
Okay, if they're comfortable, right. Okay, yeah, right, okay.
You're deciding what to do next, with your time. I'm sure there are things you have yeses and nos to on an ongoing basis. Are you in touch with those?
I really don't feel like I do. I mean, I don't really, what I have in a restaurant, okay. But I really have to ask myself, what's in my best interest to eat?
Right. So what this is showing me is what I am guessing is some kind of a training.
Okay.
That is blocking you.
Hmm.
That somewhere along the line, you probably adopted a belief that it was better, higher, more spiritual to not have preferences.
Well, I think what I found is if I pursue my preferences, I would become blocked in the manifestation. So then something was telling me then, is it in your best interest and highest good? That's the question. Once I ask that question, then the direction opens up in which I should go versus what I think I want or I don't want. So I think it's partly what you're saying.
Yeah. I think that you have done that at the expense of being connected to your free will choice.
Maybe. I just kept kind of running into that and couldn't really do anything more than that because, yeah, I mean, getting dressed in the morning is like, okay, what fits? Right, you know?
So to me, that sounds like there's a part of you that isn't fully alive in this arena.
Interesting.
That part of what I believe we came into this specific realm of the third dimension to experience is free will. And what I'm guessing is, and it sort of sounds like what you were describing too, that there's wounding from engaging free will and having it work out in ways that were painful for you.
Yeah, just not manifesting, blocked.
Right. And so you developed a strategy to separate from free will, is what it sounds like.
Because I feel like I couldn't trust it.
Yeah. So I'd like to suggest a different pathway that wouldn't require you to separate from free will.
Okay.
That still could most definitely involve, being connected to the highest good, but not at the expense of being connected to your free will.
Okay. Okay.
And what might be really wonderful if we have time would be for us to do some practice around if you could think of one example of a time when you were trying to engage free will and it didn't work out in a way that you were happy with. And we could work with that and work with how else you might have responded in that situation.
Okay. All right.
Are you comfortable leaving this for now at this point?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions about this? Because I think this is a really important area. And we could go into this a lot, and I'm also wanting to cover the material that I planned for tonight, so I'm sort of at a crossroads here. So I'd just like to hear from other people. Is this an issue for other people, or is this not so much what others are dealing with? And are there other questions around this?
I think hearing the example work through would be helpful for me.
Would it? Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, thanks.
Would other people be open to that?
Yeah, because there is always underneath all this, the question, am I right? Do I feel entitled to it? All those questions are always a little bit in the background. So maybe it's the way I see it is a lower level.
Oops, I missed what you said at the end there. Could you say that again?
But it is there.
It
looks to me a lower level. You know what? I'm going to try to switch to a phone.
Oh, okay. But did you say that the solar plexus and dealing with power feels like a lower level?
No. I said that whenever I express something that I want, there is a feeling of, am I right? Do I deserve it?
Yeah. There's some big programming there. You're not entitled. You're not entitled to even want it, let alone receive it.
Yeah. So it's similar to what Rajinder is saying.
Well, I can see some similarities and also some differences. There's a different direction you've kind of gone with it. But yes, things that are blocking from just plain old free will and choice. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, let's go into it then. Do you have a situation, Rajinder, that you could give?
Okay. I wanted to go cross-country skiing, and I made the plans and whatever, and I'm ready to go. I get up in the morning and I don't feel like it. My body's tired. I don't have the energy. So it's like I've been blocked. Something is like blocking, because I wanted to go. It's warm here. It's 70 some degrees. I want to get the snow before it's gone. But physically, I don't have the energy.
Okay.
So there's like a disconnect. So I have to listen. Okay, I have to listen to my body. Do I just push and go for it? I've done that before. I usually end up getting hurt. Or do I listen and go, okay, you're probably just tired and you don't need to go. I mean, it's a simple thing.
Okay, so I have a question for the people who are listening. What are the judgments you hear in this?
I should be able to do it.
I should be able to do it. Okay. What else? Anybody hear any others? I heard a couple others. Okay. First one. I'm being blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear the judgment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the judgment is the projection outside. There's some exterior force doing something to you. As opposed to, I'm having this experience, which is yours.
Right.
Okay. That was the biggest one that I heard.
Okay.
And then the second one, or what I would consider the most significant one. The second one was I have to look at what the message is here. And I would translate that into, I had the thought that maybe there's a message here for me.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to I have to.
Oh, okay.
So I want to be really clear about those because these judgments have everything to do with blocking our power in the third dimension, in the third chakra. And so the importance of clearing out these judgments is huge relative to opening up our third chakra power. This is one of the biggest ways that we have been controlled and convinced to give away our power, is through giving our power away through judgments to these external forces, like the one that's blocking you, whatever the heck that is.
Okay.
So let's translate this. If you were to take out the judgments and just tell me the actual experience without judgment, what would the experience be? The stimulus of this situation.
Well, in my head, I wanted to go because it's getting warm and the snow is leaving. That's sort of like the facts. And then,
Let's stop just there.
okay,
I don't think that is in your head
okay.
at all. Feel in your body where that was coming from. I want to go because
It's joy. It gives me joy.
yes.
Yeah.
Does that feel like a yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And these are our yeses. Our joy is a yes.
Okay.
I have desire to enjoy being outdoors while there's still snow.
Right.
Yes. Okay, that's the first part. Now go on.
And then I just didn't have the get up and go to do it.
Well, that's sort of, you're ahead of yourself. You're already figuring out the solution.
Okay.
We're not to try to come up with the solution yet. We're just trying to say what was the initial incident that brought up feelings. I had this desire to go outside, enjoy being outside while there's snow, and something else happened. I woke up.
Oh yeah, and I was tired.
And felt tired.
Yeah, and didn't have enough energy. Yeah.
And my
I didn't
energy,
feel like I had enough energy to do it.
I didn't have enough energy to do it. My energy was low. You see the
Okay.
difference?
Okay, my energy was low. Yeah.
Right, because I don't have enough energy to do it. It's already halfway to a decision.
Okay.
It's like you're out the door with the decision before you even let it in. And
Okay.
so what were the feelings that came up in that moment when you woke up and felt tired and remembered that you were planning on going out and doing the cross-country skiing?
I was disappointed. And I was depressed all weekend because I didn't do it.
Yes, and depression is a sign of giving your power away.
Yep.
Yes. So let's find a better way here. So you have this desire to go and you have this disappointment when you're tired.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at the inner divine quality that's not fulfilled, that the disappointment is pointing to.
You get the list. You gotta have the list. Disappointment. Play.
Yeah.
Pleasure, fun.
Yes. So do you have a yes to play, pleasure, and fun?
Yeah.
There's the yes.
Yeah.
There's the yes. So then, and I hear that there may also be a no. May be a no to going cross-country skiing when you're tired. That there are certain inner divine qualities that you're suspecting wouldn't be fulfilled.
Safety.
Safety.
Right.
So there's the no.
Right.
I have a no because this wouldn't fulfill my inner divine quality of safety.
Right.
I have a yes to it because it would fulfill play, joy, fun.
Right.
So there's your yeses and your nos.
Okay. So that's what it is. Okay.
That's what it is. And so then your free will choice is, what might I choose that could better fulfill all of these inner divine qualities? Play, joy, fun, and safety. What can I imagine I might choose that would better fulfill all of them?
Well, what I did was I went for several walks, but it didn't quite do the same thing.
Why is that?
Because I didn't go to the mountains and get in the snow.
Yeah. So what else could you have done that would have better fulfilled play, joy, fun, and safety?
Maybe hiking in the mountains. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that maybe.
Maybe going up there and just doing a few snow angels.
Well, yeah, going up there, sitting and meditating. There you go.
Yeah. And this is where you're in choice. Once you've identified the true yeses and the nos, because there were both.
Yeah, okay.
Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you. Okay.
Great.
I was having trouble breaking this down, so that's good.
These inner divine qualities are so important, and the feelings that guide us to them, that is again and again and again the heart of what our power and our strength is, and has everything to do with our first three chakras.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear from other people who were listening to this process, if this was a contribution to you, to hear the process that Rajendra and I just went through.
Joy, it was helpful for me because I was just going through the yeses for me or the nos for me and the yeses for someone else. So having it both, going through both the yeses and nos internally was really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to do this with me. Thank you.
And I thank you for being very open and sharing about this, because I think this is a pattern that many people experience, you know, in one form or a close form. So many of us have dissociated from our yeses and nos in one way or another. And it is generally because we've experienced some kind of wounding in the past when we tried to the best of our ability, you know, with whatever skills we had at that time. And so we've come up with different strategies to try to give us the safety we need and not get hurt in that way. But sometimes those strategies have caused us to separate from parts of ourselves. Okay, well, let's go on. And now I am going to go into screen sharing and look at some slides here. So, okay. So, once again, this is what we are focusing on today, which is solar plexus chakra part 2. I love this image. And I love that it's a woman and she's naked, because it really, for me, reminds me about the connection between our solar plexus chakra and our first 2 chakras, and how much we're building on the work of the first 2 chakras as we go into the solar plexus chakra. So I want to start with some review, because I think that's really helpful. And we talked about last time about these are the primary areas connected to the solar plexus chakra that has to do with power, will and intention, and lower mind. And we're especially focusing on the power aspect right now. Because for a lot of us, that's where we have confusion, or where we've sacrificed and given away some of our power, or never assumed it in the first place because of our adaptation and our training and whatever else influenced us when we were developing. Relative to will and intention, we're going to be really working with that much later in the program, when we get into the real manifestation part of the work that we're doing, and especially focusing on manifesting in the 4th dimensional way. So for now, I'm setting that aside, because I really want to focus on these other areas that will help us in our progression that we're building, and we'll be getting back to this. Relative to lower mind, what I want to say about that is something that Mary Magdalene was really clear about in Mary Magdalene Beckons, that, again, as a refresher from last week, lower mind is what some people call the monkey mind, or the thinking mind, our rational mind, as well as our subconscious, which consists of things like our beliefs, our instincts, our memories. So some people call it the thinking mind. You know, it doesn't matter what you call it. But some spiritual processes are very focused on the mind as the problem, this, you know, constant mind chatter and all of that, and very focused on quieting the mind, which I would consider that a more masculine-oriented approach. Working with the mind in general is a more masculine-oriented approach. What Mary Magdalene's approach was that the mind is fine. We don't have to do anything to the mind. It's more of a symptom, the fact that our mind is constantly going, and for many of us, constantly kind of interfering with our peace, and even to maybe to some extent our spiritual process. That is a symptom of our masculine and feminine being out of balance, and that rather than trying to, you know, quiet the mind or reduce the mind, which in some ways would be reducing the masculine, what we need to do is strengthen the feminine and bring the feminine up. And that when we do that, the mind will relax on its own. And that it's wonderful that we've developed our minds so extensively and powerfully. Now we need to develop our feminine side as extensively and as powerfully And then there will be a natural balance, and we won't have to do anything relative to the mind. It will be naturally in harmony and cooperating with the feminine aspects of ourselves. So I just wanted to bring that in as a reminder. Money, we're not focusing on so much, other than I just want to say that my point of view is that money is an extension of energy. You could look at money as simply a form of energy or a representation of energy, of life energy. And so the way that we relate to money has a lot to do with the way we relate to energy. And the way we relate to energy affects our experience of money also. And so it's an extension. Energy is really rooted in our second chakra, our sacral chakra, but the way that we use it, it's integrated more in the third chakra in the form of money for many of us. Boundaries, we're not specifically working on right now, although just briefly what I want to say about that is that boundaries is another area where a lot of people work with boundaries through their strategies. In other words, boundaries are a reflection of your no's. And it's and your yeses, but we most often think of a boundary as this is my no, and beyond this is not acceptable. But lots of times that can be very limiting to have that kind of boundary where it's based on strategies you will and won't accept. What I'd like to suggest is that people work with boundaries in a deeper way by working with it as relating to your inner divine qualities, and that your boundaries are more around supporting your inner divine qualities as opposed to having intractable yeses and nos around strategies. And that will give you, in general, a lot more of what you want in life, because strategies tend to be limiting, and they tend to more and more reduce the possibilities available to you. And so when boundaries become connected to strategies, then strategies get fixed, as opposed to being something that's very fluid, that you can use in this circumstance, but it might be different in another circumstance. So I find that connecting your boundaries to your inner divine qualities tends to be a much more valuable process and supportive overall for really having what you want in your life. And then the last area relative to anger, we are going to be working on later in this session tonight. So we'll be getting to that. Any questions about any of these 6 areas before I go on?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do all these things have in common?
What they all have in common is that they're connected to the third chakra, and that these are arenas that we deal with that I consider third chakra arenas.
Thanks.
To me, they also have very much to do with power in some way or another. Will and intention is the power to manifest what we want. Lower mind is very much oriented around using our power, again, for manifestation. Money is it's a representation. It's one form of having power, is money and energy in general. Boundaries are very much related to our yeses and our nos, and so how power is used and respected. And anger is an emotion that has a lot to do with power. So that also, to me, is part of the tie-in of all of these to the third chakra. And the other thing I want to say about this is that power is, in my point of view, the primary thing we're learning about and exploring in the third dimension altogether. So this chakra has a lot to do with how we're doing in the third dimension, and this learning, this school of learning that we've entered into by incarnating here. And as the more we are progressing and completing and fulfilling our lessons that we came here to learn about, the more ease we're going to have relative to all of these things, and the more we'll see, a sense of fulfillment and mastery and ease in the third chakra. Any other questions about any of this before I go on?
I don't have a question, but I just found your explanation of boundaries very helpful. It's definitely an issue for me, and and so that was really helpful. Thanks.
Good, I'm so glad. Okay, so I just am going to go quickly because this is all review here with this first part. But again, our first three chakras, that the root chakra, we are focusing especially on the inner divine qualities of safety and security. With the second chakra, the sacral chakra, we are focusing on the inner divine qualities of self-esteem, that we're valuable just because we're us, not because of what we do, but just because we are inherently valuable. And then all the inner divine qualities related to connection. And that these two arenas are the very feminine arenas. And then the third chakra, the inner divine qualities we're especially focusing on are power and choice. And that this is a more masculine foundation in our being. Is the third chakra, the solar plexus, and the inner divine qualities and arenas related to it. So just some more review here, that we're especially dealing with power, and in some ways that is a gauge, like I said, of how we're doing all together in the third dimension, how we're doing with our lessons here, our growth here, and what in some ways we really came here to learn about. And I like this image because it's a reminder to me, lots of times when we think about power, we think about it as a kind of force or even violence or domination, and that power is not inherently what you might call positive or negative. It's all how it's used, and it can be used for the highest good in any circumstance. And that is our option, and I think what ultimately we're all growing towards. And then another thing that we talked about last week is that, what are we talking about when we talk about power? All of us, use that word and probably have some kind of sense of what that means, or even feels like, or what we're talking about when we say someone, has power, doesn't have power, is powerful, isn't powerful. But if I asked each of you, what does that really mean? Sometimes it's hard to define these things. But one definition that I think is really valuable is that power is the ability to choose. And in every moment, we are either claiming our power by claiming our choice or not. And so from my point of view, it doesn't have to do with how much money you have. It doesn't have to do with how many possessions you own or your status in society or any of those things. It's a very much more of a spiritual indication of how you're using your third chakra energy, and whether you are in touch with it and making a choice in every moment. That is, I believe, a much more fundamental assessment of power. And that choice really comes down to our yeses and our nos. And so in order to be in choice, we have to be in touch with our yeses and our nos. And one of the things that involves is giving ourselves permission to have a yes and to have a no, which some of us receive the training in some form or other not to have a yes or not to have a no. And if that's the case, I am supporting all of you in reclaiming that, because that is a part of your power. It's a part of your aliveness. It's a part of your humanity. And it's a part of, I think, very much our soul path to claim that as a part of our power. And one of the things we talked about last time was that for many of us, there's not as much challenge around yes as no. Although someone pointed out to me this just recently that it can be challenging for some people or in some circumstances to really claim your yes too, that can feel very vulnerable when you really own that you have a yes. Because then what if it doesn't work out? What if you don't get what you're wanting or hoping for? And there's a vulnerability in that. So perhaps I'm overstating when I say most of us don't have a problem with yes. Perhaps there's as much challenge with yes as with no. Or it can be different in different circumstances. Who knows? I want to pause.
It's Rajendra. I just kind of connected something that you've been saying. So I just want to say it. I think if you're looking at your yeses and nos being in touch with your inner divine qualities, and then, somebody else, Maria was saying that, she had a big understanding that we all have the same inner divine qualities that we want fulfilled at some time or the other. So making the choice to be in touch with the inner divine qualities, I don't see how that makes us really, it makes us empowered, what you're saying, right?
Very much so.
Okay. So to me, that doesn't feel vulnerable. That feels strong.
Well, yes, and this is a different way. When I was saying about feeling vulnerable, I guess I was thinking of the more conventional way, where people are saying yes to a strategy as opposed to yes to an inner divine quality.
I really like that distinction. That really helps me a lot. And
the truth is, our yeses and our nos, well, I think we always have yeses to inner divine qualities. And then our yeses and nos come out of that. It's either yes, this supports my inner divine quality, or no, it doesn't support my inner divine quality. But if the connection is more to the inner divine quality than to the yes and the no, that's where you're holding that strategy lightly and never letting go of your inner divine quality. And that, to me, yes, I feel like that's very empowering and strengthening to have that point of view. So thank you. Anyone else have anything that they want to share relative to yeses and nos? Okay. So then we talked about expressing a no in a heart-based way. And I want to review this, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you another aspect of this too, but we'll start with just the review. So the first step was, and that there's always a yes behind the no. So that's part of, we're getting to the yes behind the no. So the first part is heart connecting with the other. And we suggested 2 steps for this. One is if you're with them, and this is when someone asks you something and your response is no, or you want to express a no to someone. That the first thing is you show that with your eyes that they've given you a gift just by asking. And there's that beginning of connection. So before any words, before any thinking about, yes, no, will we do this, will we do that, connect first. And it starts with your eyes, or if you're not, with the person, if you're talking on the phone, however you make that person-to-person connection, even before words, start there. And then take it another step with connecting what motivated this person to even ask you this thing, so that you're connecting with them. What were their feelings? What were their inner divine qualities in asking? Then you're making that first step of connecting. And then you can further the connection by expressing your honesty of what your feelings are and what your inner divine qualities are that are preventing you from saying yes. So instead of just saying, no, I can't do that, you can say, instead, when you ask me, I feel this, I feel concerned because I'm really needing support right now for completing the project I'm working on, or, you know, whatever your feelings and inner divine qualities are. And then you include everyone's inner divine qualities. So here's where you can summarize the other person's inner divine qualities that were behind their asking, your inner divine qualities that aren't fulfilled by doing what they're asking, and what other things you might come up with that could better fulfill everyone's inner divine qualities. So 3 steps to expressing a no. Any questions about that? Okay, so now what I want to do is go back over this process and show how it's the exact same process to receiving a no. If you ask someone else to do something and their response was no, it's the exact same process. So first step, heart connect with the other person. Show with your eyes first, connect bodily with the fact that they are giving you a gift by expressing their honesty. Now, how many people, when you hear a no, when you ask something of somebody and they say no, how many of you have this response that they've just given you a gift? Anyone? Okay, I'm hearing resounding silence right now.
It depends on how it's done, how the no is given.
Yes. So sometimes you can hear that as a gift. So this is part of our challenge as leaders of the heart, is to be proactive in hearing this, even if it's expressed in a difficult way. Even if it's expressed, no, I hate you, I would never do that. Which I could imagine a child saying at some point. But who knows in what form you might receive a no that would be difficult to hear. But to be proactive in hearing as someone has just given you a gift by sharing their honesty with you. Because if we can't hear a no from someone else, we can't ever really know them, because no one is always going to have a yes to everything we want from them. And so we need to be able to hear their no if we really want to be fully open to them. So in sharing that with you, they have shown you their willingness to show themselves honestly. So the first step is to acknowledge that, some bodily way, through your eyes, through your heart, however you do. Second step is to do the heart reflection process of what you think they're feeling and what their inner divine qualities are that cause them to say no. So that might be something like, I'm guessing when I asked you to do this, you felt overwhelmed because you're needing a balance right now with all the things you're juggling in your life. There's an example of heart connecting with what's going on with them that caused them to say no. And then you self-express what came up for you when you heard the no. I feel sad because I was really longing to have some connection with you today. So there you share your own heart. And then the last, create from inclusion. So summarize everyone's inner divine qualities. I'm wondering what else we might be able to do that might support you in having the balance you are needing right now in your life, and me in having the connection I would like. What else might we come up with? So same 3 steps. whether it's expressing a no when someone asks you for something, or hearing someone else's no when you've asked them for something. Same process. So if you just memorize these 3 steps, first step, heart connect with the other. Second step, self-express your honesty. And third step, create from inclusion, including all the inner divine qualities. You'll have a roadmap to help you navigate yeses and nos between yourself and other people. Any questions or comments about this? Would anybody like to give an example that maybe they're working with in their life right now that's has to do with either receiving a no from someone or expressing a no to someone that we could practice this with? Any brave person, I will help you. Anyone want to try? Can anyone think of a situation in your life that you're dealing with saying a yes or saying a no to someone or receiving a no?
This is Rajender. If no one else wants to, I will.
Okay.
I am traveling next week to Florida to take care of my mother, who's having some surgery for breast cancer. And I used some cannabis candy to help me sleep. So I told my husband I was going to take it with me, and he freaked out. And I kind of got angry at his reaction. But then, so I didn't give it, I didn't receive it as a gift at that time. So on reflection, I didn't exactly use his words, but I let him know that I appreciated that he was being protective, because, you know, you can get arrested for that, and I wasn't thinking about it because you're not supposed to do that. And he was being protective of me and us, and that was his inner divine quality of being, you know, protection. Yeah. So I acknowledged that to him, and you know, let him know that I wouldn't do that, that, you know, I was thinking about it because the last time I was with my mother, I had such a hard time sleeping there. So we were okay. But it would have been better to have used this process rather than having the reaction.
So when you say he freaked out, what did he say or do?
He started yelling. He started yelling that I couldn't do that. It was against the law. It's drug trafficking. What's wrong with me? And la 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 la.
Okay. So he raised his voice and in a very strong tone of voice started saying yes.
Right.
Okay, good. So let's do a role play here.
Okay.
So how about if I be your partner?
Okay.
And I'll say, you can't do that. That's terrible. You're going to get arrested. That's illegal. That's drug trafficking.
Right. And I just was like, oh my God. I was shocked. I was shocked at the reaction.
Okay. So in that case, and this is wonderful that this is coming up. I'm so happy because it's helping to flesh out even more about the process and what the options are. So what I would suggest in that case is that you needed self-care first before you respond to him.
Right.
Self-care. So what I would like you to do is to start out taking a breath. I've just said all these things to you as your partner, and I want you to identify what your feelings are hearing this. So like you're saying out loud your inner voice to yourself. If you were to do some inner self-care of this heart pathway, first saying, wow, when I hear that, I feel.
Okay.
And I think I already heard your feeling.
Yeah, I felt shocked.
Shocked?
And I felt chastised.
Is that a feeling?
Oh, no, that's a judgment. Okay.
If someone was chastising you, what would you be feeling?
Some kind of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt, some kind of hurt.
Hurt. I felt hurt.
Yeah.
Shocked, hurt.
And angry.
Angry. Okay. So of these three, which was the strongest? Shocked, hurt, or angry?
Shocked and angry kind of ran a pretty close together there.
Okay. So let's take on them, both of them. Let's start with the shock. What's the inner divine quality that wasn't fulfilled that the shock is pointing to?
A respect.
Ah, you're needing respect for your choice and your ability to make wise choices.
Exactly, or at least discuss it like an adult, not shout.
So discuss it like an adult. Does that mean to be to have a calm conversation about it?
Right, rather than raising the voice and getting all crazy.
Okay, you are needing respect and calmness.
Yes.
Okay, anger. Let's start with the judgments. Take out the judgments. So what were the judgments that the anger was connected to?
That he thinks I'm that stupid.
He thinks I'm so stupid.
Right, then I'm going to do that. I was really kind of talking about what I wanted to do, not really what I was going to do.
Oh, so he thinks I'm stupid. He doesn't even realize I'm not going to do this. I'm just saying what I would like to do.
Right.
Okay. So when we set those aside, are there other feelings other than anger there?
Yeah.
What?
Kind of sad
Mm-hmm.
that he doesn't trust me.
Sad because you're needing trust?
Yes. Sad because I'm needing trust.
All right. Great. So I'm hearing that you are needing trust and respect.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, we're just beginning. But I'm taking that to mean you're feeling better about this. Is that true?
Well, I'm getting more clarity.
Okay. So I'm imagining, had you been able to give yourself that kind of self-care in the moment, that you would have then had the resources to respond authentically by connecting with him.
Right.
True?
Yes. And I would have connected by saying, well, this is what I would like to do. I'm thinking about it, but I realize that I shouldn't, or it's not wise.
I don't recommend that. That might satisfy your mind, and it might satisfy his mind, but I don't see that going to make the kind of heart connection you want.
Oh, okay.
So I suggest going up to step number 1 here.
Okay.
And heart connecting with him first. So you're going to do these steps. The first one might be for your eyes to show that you've received a gift by him saying, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. You're going to get arrested. Can you take a moment and just receive that as a gift and even reflect back to him that that was a gift, that he actually showed that part of himself to you?
Okay.
Okay, great. And then build on that by reflecting back what you think his feelings were and inner divine qualities were, and start with the feelings. When you heard me say this, you feel what?
You probably felt afraid because you're needing safety.
Yeah, you're wanting me to be safe. I sure am. You're right. That's a crazy idea you came up with. And until he calms down, I would stay with that step of heart reflecting. So just say, yeah, I really hear how disturbing that is to you, because you really want to know that I'm safe. Is that right? Just keep with it until he goes, yes, thank you. That is really true. I'm just trying to protect you here.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear the shift. Okay, so then you can go into now, because you on the foundation of starting that heart connection with him, now you can say what's true of you. But you want to say it not in terms of strategies, not in terms of your thoughts, but in terms of your feelings and your inner divine qualities. So what are the feelings that you're having at this point? Having heard him, having connected from, with his feelings and inner divine qualities, what are your feelings right now?
I'm feeling a little almost a little embarrassed that I went down this path.
Uh-huh. And what's the inner divine quality that embarrassment is pointing to that's not being fulfilled?
I think a little bit of honesty.
Say more, because I'm not quite understanding how you're seeing that.
A little embarrassed that I didn't think it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you want to be kind of dependable and responsible in your choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, or is that mostly it?
Well, when I'm receiving how he felt because of what he was needing, I mean, I'm grateful that he cares enough that he is trying to be protective and is concerned.
And I suggest that you own it as yours, not his.
Okay.
That my needs for care are really fulfilled by what you did.
Okay.
Can you hear how that would be different?
Yeah.
For him to receive that and for you to hold it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're opening your heart much more by expressing what's true of you that way.
Right.
Is there anything else you would want to do for the third step as far as creating from inclusion here? Like what other things you might do that would more fulfill his inner divine quality of safety and yours of being dependable and responsible, and also supporting your need for sleep?
He came up with several.
Yes. Yes, when you're heart connected, it can come from either one of you.
He came up with several. So, I mean, you know, if it's that bad, he said, get a hotel room. You know, don't you have some pharmaceuticals you can take with you that are legal? You know, so yeah, there were several.
Great.
Yeah.
So yes, so and sometimes you come to strategies that maybe you would have come to anyway through a different process, but the feeling you're left with is very different because of the way that you come to it, where you come through this heart way together.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is very much an extension of what we were doing in the Magdalene Heart Path coursework. And this has everything to do with this navigating free will between people and how we do it in a way that's not just winners and losers, that leaves people separate, hurt, cut off. Instead, that grows the heart bond and grows this feeling of we're on the same team, like Maria was saying in the beginning, that we're connected. And I like to call it, you know, it's our heart connection dance. And this is, to me, what we're learning and what we have the opportunity of growing into in using our power in a fourth dimensional way, where it's inclusive of all. So any reflections from anyone else about this little practice I just did with Rajinder? And anything anyone wants to share about that, how it affected you to witness that?
For me, it just helps the process become more real. Just every time we do one of these exercises, it's really helpful for me to, you know, because I'm thinking along about, okay, I had this situation and how I would apply it, you know, kind of as I'm listening to it. So it's helpful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share anything about that? Okay. Well then, I'm going to carry on here and we're going to go into some more further topics related to third chakra, solar plexus, and how we navigate this whole thing. So fundamentally, we're looking at this process of being in the third dimension, being a free will plane, and learning how to grow and receive our learnings here. And what Mary Magdalene says is it has everything to do with respecting free will. And she emphasizes very strongly that this is one of the biggest differences between higher dimensional beings and those manifesting in the third dimension, is that third dimensional beings in general are still exploring this whole realm of free will and learning about respect for free will. And for higher dimensional beings, it's very clear cut, and they're very, it's pretty non-negotiable that they don't transgress anyone's free will. Whereas in the third dimension, we're still learning about this. So there tends to be a lot of transgression of free will. And we're learning, well, how do we do this? How do we navigate in a world where everyone has yeses and nos, and those yeses and nos seem to be bumping up against one another? And so the processes that we've been doing in this class tonight are examples of how to navigate that in a way that still respects everyone's free will, that supports everyone in coming from choice as opposed to domination or authority. And I look at there's three primary choices that beings tend to make relative to how they interact with free will. And the first one is, and whether or not they're respecting free will. The first one is dependence or codependence. And that's where you're looking to someone, for someone else, you're being dependent if you're looking to someone else to make your free will choices for you. Or if you think it's your job to make others' free will choices for them. And codependence is when two people are in a relationship where they're both agreeing that one person should be responsible for making the choices and the other person is giving up their free will to the one who's the responsible party. And that's what we tend to call codependence. And dependence is a natural stage that we all go through as a child. In our childhood, from birth till, we're an adult somewhere around, 18 to 21 or whatever, age it is for each individual, where we really make that transition into becoming an adult. Up until that point, we are operating as dependent beings, and the adults who are the caretakers, parents or whoever else, are the caretakers for the child. It's appropriate for them to be making choices on behalf of the child's free will, hopefully for the highest good of the child. And as Mary pointed out, as the child becomes increasingly able to take responsibility for their choices and to be able to make choices, that support them, then part of the role of the parent is to relinquish their taking responsibility for the child's choices and give that to the child on an incremental basis, as the child is showing the signs of being ready for that and capable, so that by the time they are an adult, they are operating as a free will being, making their own choices for themselves and have the skills and abilities to do that. The other time when it's appropriate for us to be making choices on behalf of someone else and their free will is if someone is incapacitated, and usually it's some kind of mental incapacitation. If someone has something like dementia or Alzheimer's and isn't able to make those kinds of choices for themselves, or some kind of mental incapacity, then in those cases, in general, it's appropriate for someone else to be making choices for their highest good. But those situations aside, as adults, it is generally not in our highest good to be relinquishing our free will to another being. And we live in a society that supports a lot of dependence and even codependence, but for now, let's just talk about dependence, where we, a third dimensional society that's based on things like authoritarian structure, where there's authorities who are telling you what to do, and if you don't do that, you get punished, and if you do it, you get rewarded. That's supporting a kind of dependent consciousness, dependency consciousness. And so part of our challenge is to recognize when those situations are arising and we're involved in them, either because we're the recipient of someone who is trying to control us in some way and make choices for us, or because we ourselves are doing that in relationship to someone else out of training or habit or whatever. And to look at other possibilities, other things, other choices we have, and to really become aware of that, because this is woven into our culture in many ways. And until we start to become aware of it, we will be unconsciously continuing that and supporting it. And part of our growing into the fourth dimension, part of our growing spiritually, and definitely part of our growing into our wholeness and healthy wellness and fullness of our third dimension, and our solar plexus chakra is growing beyond this kind of relationship to other beings, dependency relationships. Any question about that before I move on? Or thoughts that come up for you about that? Okay. Here's another option relative to respecting free will, and this is the option of independence. And this is where you're responsible for you and it has nothing to do with me. I'm responsible for me and it has nothing to do with you. This too is a natural phase that we go through in our development, and it's what many of us, most of us, tend to go through to a certain extent in our teenage years, where we're coming out of the dependency of our earlier childhood and we're starting to explore what it would be to let go of that dependency. And lots of times that goes into an exploration of independence, pushing away from others, not being connected to others, and only thinking about ourselves as a completely separate entity, being, and not in relationship to others. And there's a whole belief system in spirituality, and especially what I call New Age spirituality, that has a very strong emphasis on this kind of response to free will, this independent orientation, which is if something's happening to you, it's your manifestation. It has nothing to do with me. And I'm manifesting my own thing, and I shouldn't be affected by you. I should just be completely, able to do my own thing, and what's going on with you, shouldn't be affecting me. Are people, does this ring a bell when I say this? Are you familiar with this kind of spiritual orientation of disconnection in this kind of way?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Do other people resonate with this?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I just like to bring it out because I think it's just so helpful to have these things brought to consciousness so that you can work with them in a conscious way and recognize them when you're, following this kind of belief system, or this is coming from someone else towards you and they're giving you this kind of philosophy, and to know that you're in choice. Is this supporting you? Is this supporting your inner divine qualities to be coming from this kind of orientation? The third orientation is what I call interdependence. And and this is the idea that we don't have to be dependent and we don't have to be independent, that it's not an either or, black or white. Those are our two choices. Interdependence is where to me, the black or white, those are our two choices. That's very much rooted in this third dimensional, philosophy of winners and losers. There's two ways, this way or that way. There's going to be a winner or a loser, a yes or a no, that kind of thing. It's very dualistic. When we start to go beyond that kind of dualistic thinking, that's where we can get into interdependence. And the interdependence is what especially comes from going to the source of the inner divine qualities, not looking at the strategies, instead looking at the inner divine qualities, where we see that in fact what what we were talking about earlier. We all are on the same team. It's not an oppositional situation. It's actually, we all have the same inner divine qualities, and we at heart all want everyone to have their inner divine qualities fulfilled. This is the basis of our oneness and the basis of our connection with each other. And from that place, we can engage the power of our solar plexus, of our lower mind, to start to be enlisting the creative possibilities for other strategies that would help us get our needs met without taking responsibility for someone else's free will choice, leaving them to choose for themselves, but with also acknowledging that we affect each other, that it's part of our reality here, that we are very much affected by each other, that we aren't independent of each other, that we feel, we respond to all kinds of things that other people are doing because we are connected. I want to go back, and I realize there's one thing I wanted to say about dependence that I forgot, and I want to go back to it. This dependency thing, sometimes this can crop up in spirituality too, as like that it's our role and that it's a good thing to be caring for others. And that, when we are making choices or thinking that we're taking care of others, lots of times it's actually crossing over into making choices for others, as opposed to letting them make their own choices. And I just want to open this up and say, what's the problem with that? What's the downside of making choices for each other as a way of caring for another person? Why is that not necessarily for the highest good?
Well, we don't learn our lessons and don't allow other people to learn theirs.
Yes. And this can actually lots of times be the underlying motivation that we may not even be seeing, is that we don't really want to learn those lessons or we don't want to go through the difficulty or even painfulness of watching someone else learn their lessons. And so it's...
And can you give an example of, maybe you were going here, but of one that is, here's what codependence would look like in this example, and here's what interdependence would look like?
Okay.
At some point.
I'll do it right now. So the classic codependent thing is, let's say there's a couple where I had a situation in my family where this was a longtime married couple, is getting somewhat older. The wife was very concerned about the husband's health and well-being. And so her strategy for trying to support his health and well-being was to tell him what he should be eating all the time. Particularly, I saw it at dinner times of that he should be eating his vegetables and and all kinds of strategies to get him to eat his vegetables. And they had a codependent agreement. He had agreed to let her make these choices for him, even though it was very clear that he wasn't enjoying it. And, I think he had his reasons why he had made that agreement, but this was their agreement. Instead of her owning that, okay, let me ask this as a question. If she was to own what was really going on for her in terms of her feelings and her inner divine qualities, what would her feelings and inner divine qualities likely have been that were behind this strategy of trying to get her husband to eat the way she thought he should be eating?
Fear.
Fear, yeah. And what was the fear pointing to that wasn't being fulfilled for her?
Fear that the end result would be death.
Yep. And what inner divine quality of hers wouldn't be fulfilled by that?
Loss of connection.
Right. And I think she was very uncomfortable owning that level of vulnerability. So it was much more comfortable for her to try to control his diet. And what do you think his inner divine what do you think his feelings were about his wife trying to control his food choices? Can you guess? Resentment. I would definitely say that was a big one that was evident. Another one that I saw, and maybe this wouldn't be so obvious without having been there, but I would say resignation. There was definitely a level of resignation that I saw of him sort of quietly enduring this ongoing situation. And what inner divine qualities weren't being fulfilled for him?
Freedom.
Freedom. Mm-hmm. What else? I think another one even more.
Respect.
Respect. Respect for his choice. So that's an example of codependency, that they came up with this strategy that they both agreed to. Interdependence would have been if they could have gotten to the level of owning what each of their own inner divine qualities was and talking about how can we fulfill this? How could she get her need for connection with him? And it's really kind of a kind of security. I think it was a security thing. Security around, not being alone, having him in her life. How could she get her inner divine qualities met for that kind of security, and his met for respect for his choice? That would have led to a very, very different process for the both of them, and probably very different strategies in life. Does that make sense? Joy, are you still there?
Yeah, it does. It's just I am not seeing, having kind of been in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I have difficulty seeing the end result, if I could say that.
You won't know the end result.
Right.
You won't know it until you walk the path. You only know your side. In the 12-step program, they have this expression that I love called staying on your side of the street.
Yeah.
And that's sort of there. I love it because it's so simple and it points so clearly to what the alternative is to codependence. Because codependence is covering both sides of the street.
Mm-hmm.
One person covering both sides and the other person agreeing that they're giving up their side of the street for other inner divine qualities like perhaps peace and harmony with that person or something. So the independent would be both staying on your own side of the street and not interacting.
Right.
The interdependent is staying on your side of the street and communicating, revealing yourself to the other person, finding out what's going on with the other person to the degree they're open and available to that, and to the degree that both are open and available, seeing how you might work together, but both staying on your side of the street. So it's by free choice. It's by asking, would this work for you? How about this? Would you like this? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or expressing your honest yeses and nos. Well, And in the way we talked about, if you have a no, I'm feeling this because I have this. When you say that, because I need this, could we try this instead? Or are there other things we could do that would support my my inner divine quality of whatever?
Right.
So
yeah, I see it in theory. It's just what ends up happening for me in practice is I don't get that far and I shut down.
Can you give an example and we can work with it?
Well, you just had one there. That was like the perfect example. So if you're just taking that example, so I was trying to get my, the joke around, with my friends is that nobody's following me home from the grocery store because like it's all green stuff. It's, and so, and I did that, I did exactly that with my husband, and he wasn't the type that actually did the whole resignation thing. He kind of liked everything, so it was okay. But there were other things that, it's kind of like my way. But there were other things that didn't happen that I didn't. I never really expressed my fears, basically.
So can you give an example where you shut down, where you were trying to do the interdependent thing and then you shut down?
Okay, another relationship where I wanted to, talk about feelings, and so the other person did. He brought something up, and I just felt myself shut down. I'm trying to, and I can't even remember exactly what the example was, but I couldn't meet it. Trying to think of a better example where okay, one was same relationship, but the person I wanted to know about, I don't know, the very traumatic childhood. So when he would tell me about it, I wanted to be there, be available, but I couldn't handle it and I shut down.
Okay, so where's the judgment there?
I couldn't handle it.
Before that.
I wanted to be available.
I should be available.
Have been available.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I asked him, he's answering, I should be, happy.
Right. Yeah, I should be able to do this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's the judgment.
Yeah.
So if you set that judgment aside, and is there a feeling there behind the judgment? When he started to tell you about his childhood.
Pain.
Pain.
Mm-hmm. And just pain that he was in so much pain.
Right. So what if you were to communicate that? What if you were to communicate, when I hear what you're talking about and what you went through, I just feel so much pain. It brings up huge pain for me.
Well, so I didn't do that because I wanted him to communicate, and I felt like then that would be the end of the communication. Okay, well, I just won't talk about it.
Okay, so let's go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, let's say you're the partner and I'm you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to heart reflect back. I'm imagining when you heard me say that it was painful for me to hear what you went through, that you felt sad that you were bringing it up and wanted to protect me. And that's why you're thinking we shouldn't talk about it anymore. Is that accurate? So what do you think he would have said?
No, it was really hard for me to talk about it anyways, and so anything that kind of stops me from talking about it just shuts me down.
Oh, thank you. So I'm understanding better now that me having a reaction just kind of tipped the scale. It was already really a stretch for you to be talking about this, and you really need kind of a very neutral, um, you need you need support to be able to open up about this. Is that right?
Right.
Oh, thank you. So, me role playing you here,
Mm-hmm.
I am imagining if you had gotten that far, what's coming up for me, being joy in this moment, is that would have given me a little more self connection. I wouldn't feel so shut down. It's like, oh, well, I want you to be able to talk about this and I want to be able to hear it. And I'm wondering what we could do that would work for both of us here.
Right. Yeah, and that's where I just don't have this, I still don't have the space to imagine an alternative.
Uh-huh. So I'm going to be joy a little bit more. I have
Sorry, I enjoy there too.
Yeah. So what about this as a possibility? What if we agreed that you just sort of told one incident and we stopped for now there, and then another time we'll pick up and you can tell another incident instead of trying to tell the whole thing. We'll just tell it in little smaller chunks. I'm wondering if that would be easier for both of us.
Yeah, that is a great solution.
And again, sometimes the solutions don't come in the moment. Sometimes you can just say, let's feel into this and give it some space. And then while you're doing something else, the light bulb goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what happens for me is some of this stuff is just so ingrained, like the shutdown in particular, that it's hard to get past that to see that there are actually other alternatives. So, yeah,
And
thanks.
your great help in that moment is your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you can just say, wow, I notice I'm really shut down right now. I wonder what's going on with me. I wonder what I'm feeling. Even that can be the beginning of an inroad.
Okay.
Because shutting down is a strategy. And before you shut down, you had feelings and inner divine qualities come up. But that pattern may be so strong to protect you. It's a protective strategy. And it may be so strong and fast that the feelings and inner divine qualities seem like they didn't even happen. And you're already in the strategy of shutting down.
Yeah, shut down and denial. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So you're probably needing safety from being overwhelmed by pain.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel right?
Yeah.
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 And I would like my world vision to be enacted so these people weren't in pain all the time, so I wouldn't have to be in pain.
Right. So maybe we could just tweak that a little bit of it's okay to mourn that painful things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that mourning, I will become stronger and more able to create the world I would like where these things don't happen.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone want to share anything about that process we just went through? Anything you experienced in listening and witnessing that? Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to say about this dependency strategy is going back to being in the role of the one, taking responsibility for others' free choices, and sometimes, in service to wanting to care for them, that there usually are other things underneath, fears and inner divine qualities. Those are connected to, as we were just exploring in the last example. But underneath it all is oftentimes a great fear of life, a mistrust of life, and a mistrust of God, and feeling like you need to take charge of other people's lives or they won't work out. To the extent that that may be true or not true for you, and it may or may not be, but to the extent that it is, or that it is for anyone, it's really trying to take on the role of God. And it's based in not trusting that God is going to be there for the other person, or very likely for you. And so there can be a whole layers and layers of things to peel back in this, where, on the surface, it may seem like, oh, I'm just trying to help. This person needs help. They need care. And you can be thinking that you're contributing to the other person or supporting the other person. But it's really good to explore, is that really the case? And what are the layers that are involved? And what would happen if you didn't do that for you as well as for the other person? So I'm a great fan at this point of the model of interdependence, of trusting that each person has their own relationship to God, that God is fully present for that person as well as for me, that I have no idea of what that person's journey is in their relationship with God, with their soul, with their spiritual unfoldment. All I know about is mine, to the best I even know about that. And that I believe the way that I can support others is by staying on my side of the road, being responsible for myself, and interacting with them, showing myself as myself, not as this is about you. This is about me. This is what I would like to know about you. This is how I would like to interact with you. Are you open to that? Would you like that? Would that support you? What are your inner divine qualities? How can we both get our inner divine qualities met here? That's what is most interesting to me, and what I have the most faith in my life at this stage. So we are getting near the end of our time, and I have a whole nother chunk that I want to go through. So I'm going to get to that now. And that is this part about solar plexus being connected to anger. And what I like about this picture is I love that she's like really being so open and showing the anger, because this is another one of those spiritual overlays that some of us carry, is that it's not spiritual to be angry. And if we're really spiritual, we shouldn't be experiencing anger. And what I want to say about anger, first of all, is that I think at root, anger is a survival strategy. Anger is like the mother lion, protecting the cubs, saying no, and fighting for survival. And that's ultimately what anger is. And anger is very much of an expression of a no. It's a very, very strong expression of a no. And I think if we see it that way, it will help us to peel back layers of beliefs that maybe we've accumulated around anger that aren't helping us. That I think anger is not as complicated as maybe it's been made out to be. And if people have been suppressed in saying their no, there often is a stage that they'll go through where they will really have anger come up. And that's a healthy stage. Therapists know this. If people have gone through some kind of abuse in the past and they're working through and healing their abuse, they often, as a part of their healing trajectory, their healing journey, will go through a stage where they really get in touch with their anger and even rage about what happened to them. And this is reclaiming their no that they gave away. And so this can be a very important part of healing and really reclaiming our power. And so I want to just bring that up as that anger can be very important. Anger can be very healing if it's something that we have denied ourselves, our true no's, and if we haven't had the respect for our no's that we needed in the past, that there can be a phase of healing the pain that resulted from that, and a part of that can be allowing the anger. And like with any feeling, anger is not good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply something arising, and it's what we choose to do with it. And so we are always in choice about what we do on the basis of the feeling of anger. Now, in addition to anger in the moment where you're just saying no, the mother lioness in the jungle, or anger as a healing process, there also can be something around stuck anger. And a lot of people, that's what, when people talk about having anger or experiencing anger or dealing with anger, that's what they're talking about, is they're talking about anger that I would consider stuck anger. And again, this is generally because you are in some ways or other disconnected from your no, and you are feeling powerless. And so anger comes up. And when we feel stuck in our anger, the way that lots of times we get our power back or try to get our power back is by making the other person wrong. And this is where judgments come up. Because in our society, we have this whole game we play where the powerful person wins. And one of the ways you claim power is by the person who's right has the power and the person who's wrong doesn't have power. So we try to get power by making the other person wrong or ourselves right. And this is the whole blame and judgment game. You could call it a game that people get into, is a way of getting power over others. But there's a price with that kind of power. And it's that it keeps us in our head, it keeps us separated from other people, and it blocks us from our heart. So I am suggesting a different process that we've actually practiced here, at least once tonight, relative to how to deal with stuck anger that is something that supports our heart. And so these are the steps for heart responding to anger. The first one being clarify your judgments and then temporarily set them aside. So anger is what I call a hybrid emotion. It always is supported by judgments when it's this stuck kind of anger, as opposed to just something in the moment coming up as you're, needing a strong response and you say no, and then boom, it dissipates. That's how you know if it's stuck or not. If it passes through, it's not stuck. If you're stuck in it and you're working it over and over and you're having conversations in your head with the person and you can feel your blood is kind of boiling, you're in stuck anger. So that's being supported by judgments. And this again happens so quickly through our training that often we don't even realize it. But if you learn this process, you can learn to work it so you know, okay, I've got judgments. What are they? So bring your judgments to consciousness. And the two ways that I find are the most effective are either to say them out loud to another person, or if you're by yourself, write them down. If you can't write them down, at least say them to yourself internally. Maybe you're in a situation where, you have to stay present with someone else. You can't do that. Fine, then just say it internally. But if you can write it down, that's a great way to concretize it, or say them to another person. Then this spaciousness starts to happen that makes it easier to have the sense of temporarily setting those judgments aside. And when you do that, you'll notice that there's another feeling underneath the anger that's different from anger that you'll get in touch with. And most often it's one of two feelings. It's either fear or sorrow. Sometimes it's powerlessness or sometimes frustration, but oftentimes the deeper feelings are either fear or sorrow. If you do that, set the judgments aside and there's still anger, it's a sign that you haven't found all the judgments yet. The judgments are still operating in your system. So then just go back and look for more judgments and bring them to consciousness and set those aside until you eventually get to a different feeling than anger. Once you've cleared out all the judgments, inevitably it happens. The third step is when you get to that deeper feeling, let's say it's sadness, then what are the inner divine qualities that the sadness is pointing to that weren't fulfilled for you in that situation? Identify the inner divine qualities and connect with those inner divine qualities. And this is the shift step where you go into connecting with just the purity of the inner divine qualities and even the wholeness of those as you know them. So you're reconnecting with yourself, with your inner divine qualities and your inner divinity in those particular areas. Once you're reconnected, then you consider actions you would like to take from that connected place, being now connected to your inner divine qualities. Any questions about that? I know with Rajinder, we went through this process where one of the feelings that you had about your situation was anger. And so we actually demonstrated that earlier in the role play that we were doing. But this is just outlining the exact steps we were going through, which this is another thing that will really help people in removing any blocks you might have to your solar plexus chakra and to your power. Because when you're angry, you're not in your power. You're disconnected from your power. Our power is always in our connection to our inner divine qualities. And when we're angry, we're disconnected from our inner divine qualities. And the more you stay connected to your inner divine qualities, the more you strengthen your ability to stay connected to your inner divine qualities, the less and less angry you will find yourself in your life. Because you'll be in your power. You won't need that extra power of the anger. You're already in your power. Any questions about that?
I think you just answered it. I was just going to ask, well, then why, when you're angry, you feel powerful?
Because it's that fight or flight response, where you're marshaling up extra energy to say no when you feel like your no is not going to be heard. So there's that rush of extra energy.
Right.
But
you wouldn't need if you just were in your power.
In general, there still will be situations where you might need that extra energy and where you might have that, but it wouldn't become an MO. You want your MO to be, I realize I have choice and that's my power.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to needing this kind of physical overpowering another person to take care of yourself.
Right. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Just to take a little bit further what Joy was just saying, our kind of, instinctual anger, that anger of really marshaling extra energy to do something, that's the kind of energy that lets a mother run into a burning building to get their child, or lift up a car that they couldn't lift up under any other circumstances. That's what anger was really designed for, survival. But most of us are not in survival situations where we're getting angry. But we're in situations where we don't feel connected to power, our third chakra, solar plexus power. So that's why it's part of this whole gestalt of coming into our power at our third chakra and realizing we can do that through choice, being connected to our yeses and nos, rather than through marshaling this energy to try to overcome, the person we've turned into our enemy, turned into the lion in the jungle, who's just someone saying no to us. So it's a more beneficial, a more supportive response. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I get angry, like if someone crosses a boundary, and I don't know if it's like past anger that comes up. This happened to me a couple weeks ago. I got so angry because someone didn't respect one of my boundaries. Not to him personally. I kind of had to like do this whole release of anger.
Mm-hmm.
So if like I was more connected to my power, would I not feel that anger as like intensely?
Over time, yes.
Over time. Okay. Like I didn't get outright angry at him. I kind of was like, I have to process it. And then I looked at.
Right. And that's what this is. This is a processing thing to bring you back to your power, to your inner divine qualities. But in fact, I mean, I don't know the situation. I don't know what they did. Are you open to sharing?
It was like a really complicated situation. I think it was just that I was really vulnerable with him and telling him like what I needed. And then this is a judgment that I felt like my needs didn't matter to him. But yeah, it's like a complicated story. I would go into it. But
in that moment, he responded, he said certain things, or
he said something that I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been telling you like what I've needed. And then you come up with this idea, which is like an idea that like my needs would not be met at all. My instinct was just to feel like I felt so angry.
Mm-hmm. So what were the judgments?
The judgments were that he wasn't making my needs matter, that he wasn't hearing me, that, those were the judgments.
Okay.
And he didn't care.
Yeah. My needs don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's not listening to me.
Right.
If you set those aside, is there another feeling that's different from anger underneath?
Oh, yeah. It was like this deep, deep sadness.
Sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really sad.
And what inner divine qualities was that sadness pointing to?
Definitely. There were three. There was like love, connection, and safety. And honesty.
It's interesting because your judgments were pointing to things that I'm wondering if those were part of the inner divine qualities, like caring.
Yeah.
Listen to.
Listening. Yeah.
Mattering.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah.
Out of all those, which seem the most important? Which ones have the most yes to you?
I think the caring and the mattering.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, you listen to the judgments because they have important information for you.
Yeah.
So now go inside to the place where you know what it's like to have the caring and the mattering that you long for.
Mm-hmm.
And reconnect with that place in you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to do that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now from that place, what other things might you ask for that would support you, that would support those inner divine qualities in you of caring and mattering?
Like, what would I ask for in the relationship, or what would I?
Yeah, in this situation with this person, what other things might you ask for?
That's a tough one for me right now.
Right.
It's hard.
This is a sign, and this is not personal to you at all. I hear this from people all the time when they're working with this work. That's a symptom of a third chakra shutdown.
Oh, that's me. Yeah. Okay, because when you said that, I was like, nothing's coming to me. I don't even know.
Can you tell me at all, like, one sentence of what his words were? Because it would help me to give you some options here if I could.
Okay. Well, Mercedes, I know you know some of the background of the story with this man who was polyamorous that I kind of got involved with. So then, and I kept saying, you know, it's not for me. Like, I really want this sacred relationship. I really want monogamy. And what happened what happened was then him and his wife decided not to be polyamorous anymore. They wanted to be a couple and date like one other person. And he said, I really wish you would consider that. And I just lost it because I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know me so well. Never once, like, in our relationship or conversation have I ever said I was interested in something like that. So that's where, like, the boundary and the anger came in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you felt sad when you heard him say this because you were needing caring and mattering. So I'm trying to think and I open this up for anyone else if you have ideas of what she could have requested in that moment that would have helped her to get her inner divine qualities for caring and mattering met.
I have to be honest, in the moment, I just wanted to get as far away from him as possible. So that was...
I'm understanding.
Are you?
I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't change things. And this is just a practice to show you a different avenue, a different pathway. So what if you had said, what if you had just expressed what was coming up for you? What if you had just said what you just said to me? You know, when I heard you say this, I feel so sad because in all our time together, I have never once, you know, suggested that would work for me. And it just really doesn't meet my needs for caring about me or that I matter for you to ask me that.
Right.
What if you would express that to him? And what if you would follow that up with what comes up for you when you hear that's what's going on for me? What comes up for you?
Yeah. That sounds like that would have been more in my power. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So the more we practice these things, the more we start to see these other options, the more we realize we have choice. And we start to learn how to claim our choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we are slightly running over time, and I appreciate you all for sticking with me today. And I feel like this has been one of those sessions where I talked and talked and talked. So thank you very much. And I just want to end with going over our practice suggestions for this week. So 2 meditation practices. Oops, we're not even going to go into this. This is more than we have time for. So we're going to go here. So first, daily meditation. This is building on what we've been doing all along. So now we're going to put this all together, our first 4 chakras. And it's building on what you've been doing in the past. So the first step is to begin at your heart, visualizing a smile radiating it at your heart in all directions and letting that become strong and deep. And then the second step, adding to that the root chakra, where we have the whole visualization. And again, I'll send out all these instructions to you so you don't have to remember it. And then adding in the sacral chakra and staying connected as much as you can to the heart, root, and sacral, and now adding in the solar plexus. So this is a teeny little picture, but hopefully you can see what I like about this picture is that it shows the first 4 chakras. And that's what this meditation is building to the best of your ability, being able to connect with and feel the connection between all those first 4 chakras, root, sacral, solar plexus, and heart. Okay, so that's the first meditation. Second meditation is working with anger. So at least one time or more if you want during the week, do a meditation where you do this process with anger and do the steps that we just went through. And this is exactly what we just talked about, so I'm not going to repeat it. But I will send you the notes that will have these steps. And then 3 weekly practices. First one, continue to tune into your solar plexus and just notice your awareness of your solar plexus and how connected you are or are not to it, whether it's open, whether it wants to open. Keep tuning in. That's the first one. Second one, keep in touch with your yeses and your nos throughout the week. Let that continue to grow, and then connect the yes or the no to the inner divine quality that it's pointing to. The yes, I don't need to say more. You know how to do that. And then the last one, connect with your practice buddy. First, do the initial connecting for what's, in the present with your feelings and inner divine qualities. Then continue to talk about your solar plexus chakra experiences, both the meditations and the daily practices. Okay? So I'm finally going to come out of here. Hello, everybody. I can see you again. And I'd love to hear 1 or 2 shares how this was for you tonight, because I've been talking so much. I just love to hear feedback from you. So, celebrations and mornings about our class tonight.
Well, I'll celebrate because I feel like that I have a lot of work to do here. So I'm going to just really go into this week and, really connect to this part of me because I feel some resistance around it. And I know that's a sign that that's where I have to go. So thank you.
And I'd like to suggest that if you feel the resistance, feel where it is in your body and connect with that part of your body and ask it what it's feeling and what its inner divine qualities are. And see if that helps you and what requests it has of you. And that might help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share about how this evening was for them?
Hi, I wanted to apologize, this is Jennifer, that I was an hour late because everybody's time changed except for mine. So I came on at 6 o'clock thinking it's 6 o'clock. But now I'm on Pacific time because we never changed. So anyways, I just wanted to apologize. So I came in late, but I think like what I got out of, this last hour is because I've had a lot of anger this week. And I think it's that healing type of anger you were talking about with just all of the stuff, the trauma, just, working in these lower chakras. And so my first reaction was that kind of, spiritual reaction that I know of, not even just honoring the emotion of being angry, of like, I can't be angry. That's not right to be angry. That's not spiritual to be angry.
Right.
So I got a lot out of that. So I look forward, even though it seems challenging to go through the exercise of the steps that we just went over. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, I don't want to take any more time because we're really over here. So I invite everybody to unmute themselves and we'll share a goodbye, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
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 Bye.